You know what's funny about beautiful people? We assume beauty goes all the way through, like somehow a pretty face means a pretty heart. But that's not how it works, is it? This story, one of the oldest tales passed down through generations, it understood that truth long before any of us were born. Picture this: a king needs a wife. Not just any wife, a queen. And he's clever, this king. He knows that when you are looking for a queen, you can't just pick the most beautiful woman in the kingdom and call it a day. Because here's the thing, beauty is easy to see, but character, that takes some digging.
So he sends out a proclamation. Every worthy maiden in the land should come to the palace. He'll choose his bride from among them. Simple enough, right? Except in one particular village, there lived a man named Tariq who had 2 daughters. And both of them, were so beautiful that people would stop mid-sentence just to stare. The kind of beautiful that makes you forget what you were seeing. But that's where the similarity ended. The younger daughter was called Amara, which means grace. And somehow she'd grown into that name like it was made for her. Maybe it's because she spent her mornings in the garden, tending to every growing thing with the kind of patience most people reserve for their own children. She talked to the plants as she worked. Yeah, actually talked to them. She had a favorite rosemary bush she'd named Zahir. She'd hum old songs as she watered, pull weeds as gently as if she was afraid to hurt the earth itself. The other daughter was Sira. Her name meant princess, and maybe that was the problem. Maybe she'd spent too long thinking she deserved a crown just for being beautiful. She wasn't cruel in the obvious ways, didn't go around kicking dogs or stealing from neighbors. No, her cruelty was more refined than that, more calculated. When Amara would sing while grinding grain, Sira would snap at her to be quiet. The noise was unbearable. When Amara's garden flourished, Sira would make comments just loud enough to hear. Must be nice to have so much free time for hobbies. And at night, this is what Tariq didn't know. At night, when their father was asleep, Sira would slip into her sister's room and stand over her bed. "You think you are so special," she'd whisper to sleeping Amara, "with your little songs and your little plants, but when it really matters, I'll be the one chosen. Remember that." Amara never told their father about these visits. What would she say? That her sister whispered threats in the dark? It seemed too strange, too petty to repeat. Besides, Amara figured Sira was just unhappy. And unhappy people lash out. That's what they do. So she'd wake up, tend her garden, hum to Zahir, the rosemary plant, and try to love her sister anyway. The day the king's messenger arrived, the whole village gathered in the square. You could feel it in the air, that electric sense that something was about to change. The messenger unrolled his scroll. The king was seeking a wife, the most worthy young woman in all the land. And yes, both of Tariq's daughters were invited to come to the palace to be considered. Sira's face lit up like someone had set a fire behind her eyes. Finally, her beauty would be properly recognized. Finally, she'd get what she deserved: a palace, servants, a crown, a king who would give her anything she wanted. And finally, and this was perhaps the sweetest part, finally, she'd be elevated above her insufferable sister. Tariq was thrilled. "Both my daughters called to the palace, both of you beautiful enough to be considered for queen." He was already planning the journey, talking about what provisions they'd need, how many days the walk would take. But that night, while Tariq made his plans, Sira made her own. She wasn't about to share this moment with Amara, wasn't about to risk arriving at the palace at the same time and having the king look between them, weighing, comparing. No, she would get there first. She would be the first beauty the king saw, and first impressions, everyone knows. First impressions are everything. So, before dawn, while the stars were sharp in the sky, Sira slipped out of the house. She took the path that led toward the king's city and she walked fast, a small smile playing at her lips. Let Amara come with father, taking their time like it was some kind of family stroll. By then, it would be too late. The king would have already made his choice. The path wound through the forest, and the forest that early was still half asleep. Mist hung between the trees. Birds were just starting to think about singing. Sira walked like she owned the road, head high, purpose in every step. That's when she heard the crying. A woman sat beneath a willow tree, her face in her hands, shoulders shaking with sobs. Her clothes were torn, her hair disheveled. "Please," the woman gasped when she saw Sira. "Please help me. Bandits took everything, my horse, my belongings, even my shoes. I'm trying to get to the next village, but I can't walk another step." Sira didn't even slow down. "Then you should have traveled with guards. I can't help you." "Just some water," the woman pleaded. "I have such terrible thirst." "I need my water for the journey ahead. Find a stream." Her voice was ice. "I'm on my way to marry the king. Do you think a future queen stops for every careless traveler who gets herself robbed?" She swept past, already forgetting the woman before she was 10 steps away. The path continued. The sun climbed higher. Near a clearing, a farmer struggled with his cart. One of the wheels had broken, and baskets of apples were scattered across the road. The man was old, his back bent from years of labor. "Miss," the farmer called, desperation in his voice, "could you spare a moment? If I could just get these apples to market before they spoil, my family needs the coin." Sira actually laughed. "Do I look like someone who fixes carts? I'm going to the palace to become queen. I don't have time for this." "Please," the farmer said, "just help me gather the apples back into—" "That's your problem, not mine," Sira snapped, and she stepped carefully around the spilled fruit, making sure not to dirty her dress. The farmer watched her go, something unreadable in his weathered face. The path grew steeper as it climbed into the mountains. The air turned thin and cold. Sira found herself breathing hard, her legs aching. Then she saw the light. A small cottage sat just off the path, smoke curling from its chimney. Through the window, she could see the warm glow of a fire, and sitting outside on a bench was an elderly woman wrapped in shawls, a kettle of soup steaming beside her. "Traveler," the old woman called, "you look weary. Come, sit, share my meal and warm yourself by my fire. The mountain path is treacherous when you are tired." For a moment, just a moment, Sira almost said yes. The cold was biting, and that soup smelled incredible, and her feet hurt so badly. But no time. The king was waiting. "I don't need your charity," she said sharply, "and I certainly don't have time to sit around chatting with," she waved dismissively, "whoever you are." The old woman's eyes grew sad. "Child, pride makes for cold company on a long road. Save your wisdom for someone who needs it," Sira said, and she walked on. She didn't see the way the old woman's form shimmered when she turned away, didn't see the knowing look in those ancient eyes. By the time Sira reached the king's city, the sun was starting to set. The palace gates were open. Guards stood on either side, but they didn't stop her. They'd been told to expect worthy maidens. Sira smoothed her dress, lifted her chin, and walked in. She'd made it. She'd gotten here first. Now all she had to do was dazzle a king. Back in the village, Tariq had woken to find one daughter missing. "She left early," Amara said quietly. She'd found the note Sira had left, just a few words scrawled on paper. "Gone ahead, don't follow." Tariq's face fell. "She went alone through the forest?" "She wanted to be first," Amara said, and there was something in her voice. Not anger, not even hurt, just understanding, sad understanding. They set out later that morning, Amara and her father. They walked at an easy pace. Tariq pointed out birds, told stories about when he was young. Amara found herself almost enjoying it, this time with her father, this journey through the world. Near midday, they came upon a woman sitting beneath a willow tree. She looked up at them with red-rimmed eyes. Her clothes were torn, her feet bare and bleeding. "Bandits," she said simply. "They took everything." Amara knelt down immediately. She pulled out the extra pair of shoes she'd packed, good steady walking shoes. "Here," she said, "take these." And she rummaged in her bag, "some bread and cheese, and my water skin. We'll refill it at the next stream." She even took off her own shawl and wrapped it around the woman's shoulders. The woman stared at her like she'd just witnessed a miracle. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you give me your own shoes?" Amara smiled. "Because you need them more than I do. And because nobody should have to walk this world barefoot and alone." The woman took Amara's hand in her own, squeezed them gently. "You have a rare heart," she said. "Don't lose that." When they continued on their journey and looked back to wave, the woman was gone. The shoes were gone. But where she'd been sitting, there was a single white flower that hadn't been there before. "This is a strange road," Tariq murmured, "but a good one," Amara said. They walked on. By afternoon, they found an old farmer struggling with his broken cart, apples scattered everywhere. "Let us help," Amara said before he could even ask. She and Tariq gathered every apple, packed them carefully back into baskets.
While Tariq helped the farmer jury-rig a temporary fix for the wheel, Amara organized the fruit so none would bruise. The farmer kept shaking his head in wonder. "You're headed to the palace, aren't you?" he said. "I can tell by your fine dress, and yet you stopped to help an old farmer with his apples." "Of course we stopped," Amara said, genuinely confused. "You needed help." The farmer smiled, a deep smile that crinkled his whole face. "The king is a lucky man," he said, "whoever he chooses." When they waved goodbye and turned the corner, the farmer and his cart had vanished. But the road ahead seemed somehow easier, the path clearer. The sun was sinking low when they reached the mountain pass. The air turned sharp and cold, and Amara pulled her cloak tighter, the one she'd packed after giving away her shawl. That's when they saw the cottage. Smoke curled from the chimney, an old woman sat outside, a kettle of soup steaming beside her. "Travelers," she called, "come, rest your feet, share my fire and my food. The mountain is no place to journey on an empty stomach in the growing dark." Amara's face lit up. "Oh, that would be wonderful, thank you." They sat by the fire. The soup was rich and filling, vegetables and herbs, and something else Amara couldn't quite identify, but that tasted like comfort itself. The old woman asked about their journey, listened to their stories, laughed at Tariq's jokes. When it was time to leave, the woman pressed something into Amara's hand, a small stone, smooth and warm. "Keep this," she said. "When you feel lost, hold it. It will remind you of who you are." Amara hugged her, actually hugged this stranger, and the old woman held her tight for a moment. "You already know the secret," the woman whispered. "You've always known it." "What secret?" Amara asked, but the woman just smiled. As they walked away, Amara glanced back. The cottage was still there, the fire still burning, but the old woman had vanished like morning mist. The palace was more magnificent than Amara had imagined. Towers reached toward the stars, gardens sprawled in every direction, torches blazed against the gathering night. A servant met them at the gates. "Tariq and his daughter Amara?" the servant asked. "Yes," Tariq said. "Your other daughter arrived earlier. She has already been seen by the king." Something flickered across the servant's face. "Please, follow me. The king will see you now." They were led through corridors of polished stone, past tapestries and treasures, upstairs and through doors, until finally they reached the throne room. It was vast. Columns held up a ceiling painted with constellations, and at the far end, on a throne of carved stone, sat the weeping woman from beneath the willow tree. No, wait. The old farmer with the apples? No. The old elderly woman from the cottage. Amara blinked, and the figure on the throne shimmered and changed with each blink. Woman, farmer, old woman, and then finally settling into the form of a young man in royal robes with a crown on his head and eyes that held depths of both sorrow and hope. "You," Amara breathed. "You," the king agreed. He stood, and even Tariq knelt, but the king gestured for them to rise. "I was cursed," he said quietly, "by someone who wanted my kingdom for themselves, cursed to walk my own lands in different forms, unable to be recognized, unable to rule. The curse could only be broken by someone who would show kindness to all these forms, who would help without knowing who I was, without expecting any reward." He stepped down from the throne. "Your sister arrived first," he said. "She was beautiful, but when I appeared to her as I truly am, broken and cursed and asking for help, she saw only an inconvenience. 3 times I tested her. 3 times she walked away." He paused. I sent her home, with wealth enough to live comfortably, but she cannot be queen. He took Amara's hands in his. You gave me your shoes, your time, your warmth, and your fire. You saw people who needed help, and you helped them, not because you knew who I was, but because of who you are. Amara found Sira in a guest chamber packing her things. There was wealth there. Gold coins, fine cloth, jewels. The king had been generous, even in his refusal. He's mad, Sira said, appearing in different forms, testing people like we're animals in some experiment, and you are welcome to him. But Amara just sat down beside her, took her sister's hand even though Sira tried to pull away. He's not mad, Amara said quietly. He just needed to know he could trust someone, that someone would care about people, not just power. And you are that someone, I suppose, Sira said bitterly. I don't know, Amara said honestly, but I know I want to try to be. The wedding was held 7 days later. People came from across the kingdom to see the king, their true king, freed from his curse at last, marry the girl from the village who'd given away her shoes to a stranger. Sira stayed for the wedding. Amara insisted on it. She's my sister, was all she said, and that was that. And here's the thing. Slowly, over months and years, Sira did start to change. It's hard to stay bitter when kindness keeps showing up day after day, refusing to give up on you. Hard to hold on to cruelty when mercy keeps offering you another chance. She never became Amara, didn't turn into some saint overnight, but she became better, more honest, more aware of the person she'd been and the person she might become. She even started helping in the palace garden sometimes, just small things at first, pulling a weed here, watering a plant there. One day, Amara found her talking to the rosemary bush, the one Amara had transplanted from home and still called Zahir. Sira looked embarrassed when she realized she'd been caught. It's stupid, she said, talking to plants. No, Amara said, grinning, it's not stupid at all. As for Amara, she planted gardens throughout the kingdom, hired farmers whose carts had broken down, built shelters for travelers on mountain roads, and created a network of cottages where people could rest and warm themselves by fires and share soup with strangers. Because that's the thing about this story. It's not really about beauty at all. It's about what you do when nobody's watching, how you treat the weeping stranger, the struggling farmer, the old woman offering soup. It's about the choices you make when there's nothing to gain from being good except the fact of being good itself. Sira learnt that hard way. Amara knew it all along. And a cursed king broken into pieces and scattered across his own kingdom was freed because one girl understood that kindness isn't something you give when someone deserves it. Kindness is what you give because it's who you are.